And so, beloved masters, this full moon in the sign of Aquarius is beautiful, it is powerful, it is amazing in its love, in its friendship, in its community, in its indication of how spirit surrounds each and every one of you. Because religions of these times have suggested for eons that God is not here, but somewhere else. In the more ancient times, there were many nature gods, and the people felt closer because they could see a tree and know that God was there. They could lie on the ground and feel the heartbeat of the mother. But now the mind has so pushed all of those things of nature to the side, and the deity, the divine essence, has been pushed into outer space, not here, but there. This full moon, sun in Leo, the heart, and moon in Aquarius, divine mind. How loved you are. How surrounded by love you are. How indwelled with love you are. And so the full moon is, in many indicators of this particular full moon, new beginnings and personal sovereignty. Being at one, getting at home, feeling in love with yourself. Feel love, the most loving energy that you can imagine. And just let it surround you, embrace you, fill you with warmth and comfort and peace. For this is a time of new beginnings, starting with Saturn and Neptune, both retrograde in Aries, at 1 degree. Uranus, that is at 1 degree of Gemini. Jupiter has moved away from its earlier place, but it is that Mars is now sitting at 1 degree of Libra, and Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius. All of these energies are new beginnings. The first 2 degrees of a sign mark a karmic point. Anything that you might have in your horoscope that sits at between 0 and 2 degrees of a sign says that planet and the sign and the house it's in are a point of particular note in these times, something that you in your soul blueprint indicated this is something I want to work on. This is a new beginning. This is where I want to leave the past behind. And so, beloved masters, a very powerful keyword is sovereignty. Sovereign. And the words that might describe it, especially in any modern dictionary, does not draw on the depth of attention, partnering, attending to self, to be with yourself, to stay with yourself when someone says, I don't like what you're doing. When someone says, you can't do that. When people decide that they're going to inform you of what is wrong with you. Sovereignty says within yourself, you do not say to them, I won't listen, because that simply meets anger with anger. But within yourself, you certainly can tell your logical mind, I refuse to accept what they are saying. I refuse to acknowledge that their words are making me uncomfortable. I now will fill the space with something pleasant, praiseworthy, complimentary, supportive of self. And remember and stay with it, because you are leaving, you might say, the city limits of the old ways, and you're moving into the country. And it is that it's time for you to enjoy being in natural places. It is time for you to open up to yourself. Call your guides. Call your teachers. Call mentors. God, Goddess, all that is. Call friends. And make community. Come together and speak together. Not in the town hall mentality of gathering together and screaming about what you don't like, but perhaps even having a talking stick, so that if there is a circle of people, the person that is holding the talking stick is the one that is talking. If you have a comment, you wait until you get the talking stick. And that allows each person to speak without thinking about what are they going to say. It allows a deeper exploration within yourself. And so, beloved masters, the energy has amped up. And I would scarcely question that everyone on the planet is feeling this because it is intense. It feels like electrical shock. It feels like a sweeping energy. It may feel like you are on a roller coaster or in the midst of an earthquake. It may definitely have an influence on your solar plexus. The energy is powerful spiritual energy, very high frequency. But your physical form isn't used to that. And therefore, many people on the planet are experiencing, shall we call it, digestive difficulties. Anything from an upset stomach to dysentery or constipation. Feeling irritated in the digestive tract because things that you have done in the past that may actually have aggravated you, things that you allowed in the past that definitely aggravated you, are now making themselves known as a certain amount of distress, discomfort, or very irritating energy within. Don't fight it. Or the first reaction that the logical mind has to virtually everything is, how do we make it go away if it doesn't feel good? How do we stop it? How do we force the opposing energy into a place where we can control it? And all of those concepts that have been so powerfully connected to the logical mind are, even as we sit here speaking, becoming passé. What they were about is about a life that is moving on. And you, beloved masters, are moving in new directions. So all of these planets that are starting new directions will make the rest of this month very exhilarating energetically. And then in September, the planet Saturn will begin to really move quickly into the sign of Pisces, where it was at the beginning of the year. And then it will be followed later in the month by Neptune, moving back into Pisces. And then in November, as Uranus moves into the sign of Taurus, where it was earlier this year. And these large planets that have to do with new beginnings very much will stay in the signs where they were most of this year. As you come over the top of the movement from 2025 to 2026, then you begin to feel the energy lightening, but it also may seem as though it's quickening. And as you move into April, May, it is all of this preparation, backing off to look at things and contemplate retrograde planets, and then moving forward into a whole new space. And after the end of May, you will begin to feel things moving quicker than you believed they could, because you've already been experiencing energy that's moving faster than you thought energy could move. Being accustomed to the movement of the physical plane, as you begin to lighten, as you begin to become more the essence of fire and air rather than so much earth and water. Feeling the change of your thoughts, of your mind. Feeling the energy virtually exploding with new ideas, creativity, desire to accomplish, to move forward. And so, dearly beloved masters, this full moon says, come home. Come home to yourself. Feel how it feels to live in your own body. And we're not just talking about an awareness of aches and pains or discomfort. We're talking about feeling how it is that as your heart beats, you recognize, this is my heart. You own it as your own. Because you might be amazed at how many people on this planet have very little, if any, understanding of how it feels to be inside of themselves, because they were born and raised living outside, looking out into the world. And therefore, they may feel their energy leaving them and going out, but rarely do they feel the energy in them, that foundational connection, the portal to the divine, the soul center, the energy of creation, that as you feel it inside of yourself in higher frequencies, it piques the imagination. It is amazingly opening, expansive. The world that you have lived in, you've been encouraged to believe is very small. And yet, as you connect within yourself, that inner world is incredibly vast. And you may feel fear. Feel the fear. But don't feel it and then integrate it and then react to it. Feel it and make an affirmation, a positive affirmation about how I am moving forward into the new energy and leaving these old messages, thoughts, and ideas behind. I move into new freedom. I move into new and unlimited possibilities. I embrace unity, oneness, community. The words, the keys of these times are sovereignty and compassion, of strength and clarity, of the courage to know yourself, and the commitment to be with you, to be with you. And dearly beloved masters, the most amazing thing as you begin to be with yourself, you'll begin to realize energetically you're not alone. You're never alone. Not invasive, chattery beings, but a gentle warmth, a heartfelt feeling, an embrace, a touch, just feeling as though you're sitting in an atmosphere of loving. Jupiter is conjunct Venus in the sign of Cancer. Cancer, emotion. Cancer, feeling. Family, mother energy, but not smother mother energy. Because this new direction that humanity is going will move away from the helicopter parents who would hover over the children. And there will be a requirement to really consider this moving forward won't take away memories, and they can be very useful as long as you don't spend your time wallowing in what was. The memories, how did I feel at the age of my children? And I can really say, if your child is 2 or 20 or 50, how did I feel when I was that age? How do I relate to my children in a loving understanding that they are divine and unique beings, that they have their own ideas. And if they're mature, they've created their own life. Embracing the life and listening to what they have to say. And dearly beloved masters, families would truly get along so much better if they would forgive the idea that families are supposed to tell you what you must do and move into the family unit. Each person in the family has something to offer. Each person in the family is vitally important. And therefore, even the smallest child may actually have amazing input. Forgive the idea that a child of 4 or 7 or 10 has absolutely nothing to offer to adult conversation. Because if they are invited into a conversation, yes, that is about things that would help them learn about life, not necessarily things that might be considered totally adult. But speaking of current affairs, talking about things like taxes and spending and banking. And amazingly, if the children are encouraged to read, to learn, to prepare for life, they will have, if nothing else, questions to ask. It's to forgive the impatience that logic has allowed, that if people don't talk the way I do, if they're not speaking in the vernacular that I'm familiar with, if they are not old enough, if they are not the race that I am, then I probably cannot hold an intelligent conversation with them. And that, beloved masters, is where this new beginning is moving away, leaving judgment, hopefully in a pile, in a place that can be, shall we say, carried away as trash. Because you're moving forward to lighten up, literally. Right at this moment, both Saturn and Neptune are in fire, Aries. And since Aries is the very first sign of the horoscope, and the first 2 degrees are the first 2 degrees of the whole zodiac. These 2 powerful planets in that place are calling humanity to begin to open up to what we call the other, the beyond. What has always been there. And you have spent lifetimes very slowly, very subtly being indoctrinated to blindness. Well, I see just fine. I might need glasses, but I'm not talking about what you can see visually. I'm talking about what you see, feel within yourself. That inner connection to more, to more. It really isn't frightening because the gateway to it is in yourself. And that gateway, that portal to the other, is not a place that would be invaded. It is your place. It is your safe space to get to know yourself in a much greater freedom than you have allowed yourself to have. Jupiter expands. It makes things bigger. It is exalted in the sign of Cancer. So, dearly beloved masters, you may find yourself carrying around a box of tissues all the time because you may cry because it's sad or angry or fearful, but you also may be weeping because it is so happy and so good and you are so grateful. And sometimes, as the tears are falling, you may recognize it's both. It's sadness, but it's joy. It's frustration, but it's also potential for freedom. Venus is also quite comfortable in the sign of Cancer. And it is that conjunct Jupiter, which doesn't happen very often, for Jupiter and Venus to be conjunct in the sign of Cancer is something that only occurs perhaps every 12 years. And so this powerful time that literally sits on the fourth house of the United States chart, home, family, love, being together, all of those things are really being emphasized now. And dearly beloved masters, your body is your soul's home. This physical form is a sacred temple. It houses your divine self. Not as your soul is ensnared in your body, but that the soul essence is directly connected to the portal of the other, the more. So getting to know yourself from the inside out can actually be easier in these times than it's been before. Easier, more powerfully positive, new. And so, dearly beloved masters, it's time to really consider. It feels like things are changing. How do you, or we might say, how have you responded to change? And how are you willing to make the changes that you are being called to make in this time? You can refuse, and yet the inner self is not necessarily going to allow you to sit comfortably and ignore the call to move forward. So as you resist change, it may become progressively more distressing. Trying to live by the old standards, operate in the old ways, do the old things. Every day, the outer world is becoming more conflicted. The logical mind has always said, you've got to fight to get what you want. What it never particularly told you, and yet it's a law that it's quietly whispered to your psyche for a long time. If you fight to get it, you're going to have to fight to keep it, whatever it is. So if you're still fighting to get what you want, then I can assure you, beloved masters, that you will probably keep fighting for quite a long time. But if you are willing, and this is really big, this is the new beginning, this is the master change. Are you willing to surrender all that you are to that which created you? It feels like a friend. It may feel like a lover. It may feel like a parent, a mother, father. It is that the love that the divine has for who you are is so powerful. It is so magnificent. And beloved masters, don't dare allow your ego to tell you that God doesn't want you to have that. Because these times are inviting you to come and remember this is who you are. So, beloved masters, feel for the loving in this vast place, but when you move into it, it's not just a huge hall with walls that are 20 feet tall. As you move into your inner space, it can be the coziest, most comfortable place you've ever seen. A big chair by a warm fire. A couch where you can lie back with a pillow behind your head and even have a blanket to cover with. So you can ponder comfortably, carefully. This is who I am. Aries is the sign of I am. It's the sign of who am I? And with Saturn and Neptune in this sign, it calls you to really deeply, not intellectually, go through the mechanizations of what I should be and I'm not, or what I've got to become if I want to succeed. But how do I feel about my life? How do I feel about who I am? Honestly, clearly, truthfully. Because, masters, any of us that you call to sit with you, to commune with you, to just be with you, are going to listen to what you think. You can talk about how you feel, and we will not tell you you shouldn't be feeling that. The logical mind is so afraid of being in direct contact with the inner self that it has devised all manner of illusions to keep you away from who you really are. Religions have actually suggested that if you really love yourself, God's going to be angry with you. God's not going to like it if you love yourself. God will say that you're arrogant or conceited. Divine love that has no conditions rejoices as humanity would come to love themselves. Rejoices. So, dearly beloved masters, there's beautiful energy, amazing, powerful energy. Energy that is deeply connected to the emotions, Jupiter and Venus, but also Sedna is an aspect of connection with the oceans, the deep waters, the deep places within yourself. And Sedna is conjunct Uranus, directly conjunct Uranus in the same degree. And there hasn't been much said about this, but it is that this aspect is a story that talks of how logic is so cold that a father and his daughter went out in a boat and she fell out. And when she attempted to return to the boat, he cut her fingers off. And there's a cringing feeling inside. And yet, symbolically, she drifted to the very deepest part of the ocean and became involved in the creation of beautiful things like whales and dolphins and creatures of the deep sea. So it is, beloved masters, your emotions are big, and emotions are reactive. They are actually a part of logic psychology, where feelings, the more you dive into the depths of yourself, feelings are about goodness, compassion, respect, for yourself, and from that foundation, respect for others. And going deeply, anchoring into yourself, new beginnings, all of this is changing. It's changing away from what you've known for lifetimes. And with everything else that is going on, not only is there a change of an age as the energy moves from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, the Piscean age, the Master Jesus was the master teacher. And it is that his teachings were taken and very slightly slanted. He came to tell you exactly what I'm telling you. Love yourself. Come into yourself. Find out who you are and live you authentically. Authenticity and transparency are not just buzzwords of the time, they are energy, the power of the word to be authentic, to be real, to be true to yourself. And as you allow it, you may actually feel energetically weight falling away. In these times, there are many people that are seeking to reduce. We do not use the word lose for weight because the word loss or losing has a psychological effect on the logical mind that if I've lost something, I've got to go find it. I've got to go find it, and when I find it, I've got to get more of it so I don't lose it again. And so many people are struggling with their weight. It goes up and down because they are focused on getting rid of it, which involves losing it, instead of releasing it, which absolutely means that I make a space in myself to be a slender person. I make a space in myself to be what I desire. So instead of focusing on what you're trying to get rid of, the weight, surrender that to spirit with the intention, I desire to have my divinely appropriate vehicle. It is not going to fit into the one-size-fits-all psychology of logic. But for you, dearly beloved, amazing, divine, creative masters, to be in your divinely appropriate physical form requires that you trust the divine, that you trust spirit to be a sculptor, that you trust that you're safe to release the weight because in the places where the weight was, there will be new things that will come into your life that perhaps you had not even considered you desired. But with all of these new opportunities, you might say that if you have a planet in your chart that is in those first 2 degrees of the sign, or even really something that's as close as 4 or 5, that energy can attract to you things that you have dreamed of, but didn't know how to get them and didn't know how to go about achieving them. And when you surrender to spirit, it will show you how to create the divinely appropriate vehicle. Pay attention. You can't just flip a switch and go on doing other things, eating the way you have, or judging yourself the way you have. For dearly beloved masters, a great amount of the weight that humanity is carrying in these times is an accumulated sack of old judgments. What would they say? And what they say goes into the sack. And then you can take it out and ruminate on it and add some more weight to it by judging yourself by their standards. These times are about letting go of all of that, about releasing the weight of judgments. Saturn, judgment. It is heavy, very heavy. Yet Neptune is the enlightenment of what logic calls the illusion, which is actually master creation, accessibility to a creative force that is beyond the logical mind's imagining. The more you surrender who you have been logically and open yourself to spirit, not to the world, not to the outside, not to someone that says, if I got a deal for you, take this pill and you'll magically reform. Take this spray and spray it and it'll work. And maybe it will for a while. But if you energetically within yourself are not connected, if you don't feel you connected in your solar plexus, in your heart, even the body brain is awakening and functioning a lot more than it has before, not in thousands of years, because the body brain was the original place of thought in the center with the heart and soul. So moving your place of thinking from the left brain to the soul center and feeling new thought. Spirit can actually shift how you view yourself in the blink of an eye. Will you accept it? Will you live it? Or will you worry about it? Will you allow logic to say, well, maybe this is a fake situation? Spirit doesn't fake situations. Faking pretense, illusions. In the outer world, absolutely. So if you're living outside of yourself, it's time to really come home energetically. Focus on being in the area connected to your heart and soul and body brain, to the solar plexus. A lot of people, as they come home and begin to really allow themselves to be comfortable with themselves, will find a lot of their stomach issues heal. That they can rest easier. Now, moving into this new energy, you may find you're sleeping less. You may find that you don't feel very much like sleeping at all at times. But the more that these changes occur, the more you are required to be flexible. Well, I need to sleep from 8 to 6. Forgive living life by the numbers. Well, you don't understand. I have a job, and that isn't going to keep you from changing. Things that are going on in the outer world are things that you adjust. Things that are going on inside of you will be changing, but they're not going to necessarily comply with the old ways of thinking. So, dearly beloved masters, the new movement with all of these big outer planets lending energy to assisting you to come home, be with yourself, live from the inside out, to be spontaneity, to be freedom, to be inventive. These aspects are inspiration in the air. Just open your mind. There is creative essence in the air you breathe. Breathe deeply. Forgive having a list of reasons why you can't. Forgive I can't altogether. And allow yourself to focus on thinking about what you can create, what you desire to create. And so, beloved masters, it is a magnificent time of change. It is a wonderful opportunity to get real with yourself. Mars, at this particular full moon, is sitting at 1 degree of Libra air. So there is a grand trine between Uranus in Gemini, Mars in Libra, and Pluto in Aquarius. Trines are powerful support systems for accomplishing what you desire. They support optimism and enthusiasm. They are encouraging to new thought and new wisdom, and even connecting to ancient wisdom if you're open. And it is that all of these things, each aspect we've mentioned, it is about freeing you up, loosening the bondage of old energies that logic has heaped upon you. If you feel like you're in chains, then if you will flow with this energy, you will begin to feel freedom, feel movement, feel the power to accomplish. And it really has absolutely nothing to do with your chronology. Because, beloved masters, this new energy is moving you into a place where you may actually even encounter memories of so long ago, they don't have numbers, perhaps. When you lived 1,000 years and you enjoyed it. You weren't dragging your aching bones through life just trying to make it to 1,000 years, but having so much energy, so much enthusiasm, so much creative potential, so much desire for giving and living and receiving abundantly that you don't want to go. You enjoy it. It pleases you. In this new energy, it is not some perfectionistic ideal that the logical mind has put out that if you're really good, you'll have a life with no difficulties, no pain, no suffering, no challenges. But we've spoken about this in the past, and I will repeat it again. The very choice to be on this earth for a number of lifetimes is your own soul's choice of lessons to learn, things to accomplish, ways to grow, and the necessity to find yourself in everything. And logic is very powerfully seductive, and it calls people to look at what's going on outside, which really has nothing to do with what you will find inside of yourself if you're willing to look. And so, dearly beloved masters, you might say the outer world is a distorted mirror, but the inner world is the clear, transparent truth. Honesty, integrity, authenticity. It is amazing. It is beautiful. It is positive. Feel it in yourself. Feel the fear, but make no war with it. Simply announce to yourself, I am moving in a new direction. I'm going forward, and my spiritual companions are going with me. My spiritual companions are going with me. So, dearly beloved masters, new freedom, new creative potential, remembering you are a divine creative master. You are a co-creator with the divine. And that is not guilt-inspiring. That is not shameful. That is not arrogant. That is real and true. God's fine and amazing and wondrous creation. You had the free will to make choice, and certainly looking to the outer world, the choices that are being made can be very challenging. But how do you, creative master, change the direction of your energy so that you're living in the world, but not of it? Because as you make positive choices to move forward in this new, very supportive, high energy form, it is you move beyond what is going on out there. Hold an intention for the world. My violet flame is a healing fire. My violet flame transmutes the leaden energy of the old ways, spiritual alchemy. The violet flame is not, dearly beloved masters, some chemical equation of spirit to transmute lead into gold. And I would suggest that it isn't a good idea to attempt to transmute lead into gold in your microwave. Because we have seen a lot of people that have often gone through several microwaves before it began to occur to them that, oh, that transmuting ability isn't physical. Alchemy is much, much, much more energy than it is any kind of physical substance. And so, dearly beloved masters, this new energy can actually bring you a spiritual alchemy. The understanding from your soul of how to be a transformer, to change yourself so that you become totally aware, comfortable. It's a conscious thing for you to be living from the inside out. And so, beloved masters, it is our joy, our delight, our desire that every soul on this planet would find the peace, the comfort, the healing, the prosperity that allows them to have the life that they desire. The new form will be about equality. And it is certainly that the path that the outer world is taking in these times moves further and further and further away from equality. And so it will become so outbalanced energetically that it will essentially topple itself in its own power. And so, beloved masters, you are all, each one, loved, special, and important, unique unto yourself. So you can't really compare to others. And so, beloved masters, if you love to hear stories about who you are becoming, we will be telling many more. We will talk about grief, and we will talk about courage, and we will talk about separation and inclusion, and many, many more things. We invite you in the greatest of love to subscribe. And we invite you to listen. And so, dearly beloved masters, until we meet again, in whatever manner that may be, in that love that has no measure, I bid you adieu.